Partner Connection Days, formerly known as Demo Days. The name was changed recently to better describe the experience we want everyone to have: interactive, connecting, partnering, and more. And since not all of our corporate members have a traditional product or service to demonstrate, we're opening the doors wider for creative and informal sessions our members can take part in. If you joined us yesterday, thank you. We had 3 incredible sessions that will be available very soon for you to see if you missed it. And today we have 3 more. We're excited to have Concept3D with us. The Connected Campus Event Experience is the title of the session that they're going to be presenting today. When we asked about an interesting tidbit to share about Concept3D, we learned they're a team of builders, engineers, problem solvers, and go-getters. The team is 65 full-time employees across 15 states and 4 time zones, and I can only imagine how fun that is. Scheduling a meeting, I know. And I'd like to welcome Christian from Concept3D. He's going to be telling us a little bit about himself before he jumps into the presentation. Go ahead, Christian.
Hi, everybody. I have a cute little slide that you'll see too soon, but my name is Christian Batarseh. I've been here at Concept3D for about 3 years now. I'm one of our product experts for our event software, so excited to be joining the call today. A little fun fact about myself, I've got a big old thriving garden. I joke that I'm a full-time gardener outside of my full-time job here at Concept3D, and I just began harvesting some mangoes. So that is a little bit about myself, a little bit about my role here. Thanks, Amy, for kicking us off.
If you're ready, you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I am. So I will go ahead and hop into the presentation. Right. So assuming that everybody can see my screen just fine, I got a thumbs up, so I'm feeling good about that. Welcome. I'm excited to present to you all at the ACCED-I conference today. I've attended a couple of the ACCED-I conferences in person. Love this team and this group, and excited to present today on the Connected Campus Event Experience. I'll be co-hosting with my colleague Mikey, who will hop in a minute here. But just in terms of a quick agenda for the call today, we're going to be talking a bit about the current market conditions, the state of budgets, the state of events, why events matter to revenue, financial sustainability, strategically, what we've been hearing in the market, and what we're doing about it, and what we believe that you maybe should be doing as well. That'll kind of guide us through the conversation today. And to the right, we have our new company mascot. I'll call out yeah. So a backdrop about our company as a whole. Concept3D has been around for around 20 years now. We service over 700 schools throughout the country, and we do that with a variety of groups and departments. We have a core product. Sorry, we have 4 core products that span a lot of different use cases. We do really engaging interactive maps for campuses, robust and branded events calendars, virtual tours. And today we're excited to present about our new room reservation system that is fully integrated with other products in our suite. I'll call out that a lot of folks don't even realize when they're using our interactive map on campus. So perhaps some of the folks that are listening or joining us today are using one of our solutions. But this is a bit of a backdrop in terms of us as a company. I already talked a bit about myself, but have a little slide here just kind of showing my journey. I've been all across the country and recently moved to San Diego, California with my partner. I've been working in the higher ed industry for over 5 years, and between the past couple of companies that I've worked with, I've had the opportunity of partnering with over 1,000 schools throughout the country. Would love to connect, always like meeting more folks in the space. Feel free to scan this little QR code in the bottom right corner if you want to connect with us on LinkedIn. And digging into the content today, we definitely wanted to just poll the audience and kind of understand what some of the biggest pain points are. I know that we'll be having some folks drop in and out throughout the call today. So I would love to, hear in some form or fashion from the folks who are kind of watching this after what some of the biggest pain points are in events today. I don't think we'll do a live poll since there's only a few folks in the live session. But we'll talk about some of the pain points that we've heard throughout the market and that we've been built out to solve for. I'm going to kick it over to my colleague, Mikey. He is one of our marketing experts here at Concept3D, and he has a little bit to say just about the state of affairs when it comes to events today. So I'll pass the baton over to him.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christian. So let's talk a little bit about the markets. I don't think it comes as a surprise that budgets are feeling a little bit tighter this year, as they have probably last year, and they continue to feel tighter. So we have a lot of higher ed institutions expecting further budget decreases over the next couple of years. Operating costs in higher ed have increased year over year, and they're outpacing revenue gains. So we're feeling the burden even if budgets aren't actually decreasing. Our money's going a little bit less far. And then cost reduction. We've heard a lot of higher ed institutions feel like they can't cut anymore. Like they've reached the bottom of the barrel in terms of excess and cutting off the wants to have rather than the needs to have. And they just felt like they've reached the end and they need to do more with what they have, and get a little bit more efficient with the teams that they do have. But there is light at the tunnel, I promise you that. Let's talk about the state of events. So, something that's kind of interesting that we noted was roughly 40% of the space during the fall and spring semesters are unutilized. So, these are classrooms, labs, even like large lecture halls and stuff just throughout the day. And that actually decreases in the summer by 63%. So, the 60% of rooms that are used decreases even further in the summer, and it comes out to only like 25% of the campus is being used at any given time in the summer. So a lot of space available. But there's something that's exciting. So 65% of event planners actually expect an increase in attendance this year. So there's sort of like a unique opportunity of campuses have a lot of space available, and events are expected to increase in attendance, right? So there's a huge opportunity that campuses have right now to drive revenue with the summer events series and conferences. So, for example, American University brought in $7.8 million just this last summer from their conferences and events that they posted on campus. 1.7 million of that was just from hosting interns alone. So they just hosted their interns in their dorm and got quite a few amount of dollars from that. And then this isn't just American University. Loyola Marymount actually got $1 million just from one single conference that they landed over the summer. So there is a huge opportunity to drive revenue with these conferences and events happening on summer on your campus. And of course, that obviously increases campus use. So you have these huge assets available at your fingertips, which are just the buildings and space that your campus already has. And so how can you get more out of that with using events? And then also it boosts your reputation. So this might be like something to think about just in the background, but whenever you have these K through 12 events happening on your campus, these kids are like learning what it feels like to be a part of your university, even whenever they're in like sixth grade or something. And so that's a huge value add, not just for your university, but then you start getting these kids to start thinking like, oh, well, I can't wait to potentially go to this campus whenever I actually do join college. So there's a huge opportunity to boost revenue, boost campus use, and also boost reputation.
Thank you, Mikey. That was a really, really beautiful synopsis of what we've been hearing throughout the market. And one of the big conversations we've been having with a lot of folks lately is around, whether you are already renting out spaces for external groups, or whether you're trying to do more of that, or maybe you haven't and you're looking to kind of open up that opportunity. Really been working with a lot of folks on how to better utilize resources and tools that are that are at their fingertips to have more successful events, to have more events, to generate more revenue, and all of that good stuff. So we'll talk much more about it throughout the conversation today, but just wanted to call out a few items that I've been hearing and we've been hearing throughout the space. Would love to kind of understand if anybody on the call has encountered or had any experience with any of these types of dilemmas or items that can kind of hold us back or keep us from utilizing spaces to their fullest extent. Some of the things I hear quite a bit are just that the processes in place are cumbersome and waste a lot of time, waste a lot of money. There's a lot of inefficiencies when it comes to coordinating with different stakeholders for events like service providers, even security, liability, where there's no kind of good synopsis of what's happening across campus. There's scheduling conflicts, lack of visibility, and all of these items are things that we've heard consistently from various folks in terms of either what they're currently using, or what they've kind of managed to build in-house in terms of the system. And ultimately, this is all resulting in folks not being able to fully utilize their space or having event outcomes that aren't ideal, where there's gaps and things aren't getting set up correctly or serviced correctly, or maybe build on time and all of that stuff. So we'll talk more specifically as I kind of hop into a bit of a demo type presentation in a second here. But I'm sure there might be other things that come to your mind in terms of complications or pain points, but would love to kind of hear feedback in the chat box and throughout the discussion today if any of these really resonate with folks. So what can we do about it? We've talked a lot about the state of affairs. We've talked a lot about some of the gaps we've heard, and we're really excited to offer a solution that we feel hits a lot of these areas and is really compatible with the use cases and needs of the market. So I'm going to kind of switch things up a little bit. I'm going to go outside of the slide deck, and I'm actually going to hop into a live demo of our platform. I'm not going to do a robust, holistic presentation. I'm going to try to touch on some of the topics and content that I think will be relevant for this team. If ever folks want to dive deeper, though, I'm more than happy to take that after the call. But what I'm going to do is just kind of walk you through what we've built and what we've been launching with schools across the country. This is the kind of front-facing portion of our room reservation platform. Whether you're giving the keys to the kingdom for external folks to self-explore and find spaces that match their criteria, or you're managing all of this internally and just kind of taking intakes from external groups and booking it all yourselves, what we've aimed to build is a really intuitive, thoughtful workflow that is compatible with how people think about and engage with events, and just is much more user-friendly than a lot of the other things that are available. We'll be able to kind of select from a customized group of space types, choose your date and time, choose how many people are coming, and from that get a refined set of results. You'll notice too that over in the right, we have our map plugged in. A lot of the schools who are on this call or watching the recording probably already used our interactive map, even if you're not aware of it. And we'll be integrating those with the beautiful renderings of your buildings, your parking structures, pathways, accessibility, entrances, and all of that good stuff. But for our folks that aren't using our map, we'll still have this map view so that event planners can just have a better spatial awareness of where those events are happening and what they can be doing. Have customizable filters for folks to further get more granular about the spaces that they may need for an event. And then, kind of once I select an event that I might be interested in, each of those spaces will have their own landing page. You'll have a nice photo gallery that you can show some different images, maybe pre-approved layouts of how tables and chairs can be set up. You can plug these in and hyperlink them out on different places on your website if we're trying to promote those or get more visibility. For folks that use our other products like the map, we'll be able to kind of promote some of these spaces there as well. You'll be able to see what's available, what's kind of going on in these spaces, look at an availability when it's booked off and when it's available, and even kind of book directly from here. And once we do decide that, hey, this is where I'm going to have my event, we have a really robust and customized form for us to request that event host let us know all of the items that they might need for the event, the services that they might need for an event. And we'll get more into this once I go into kind of the back end. But we have developed automated workflows to coordinate for different things like security services, tables and chairs set up, and all of that good stuff. We also have direct integrations with campus events calendars, like our own localist calendar, where events can, if they want to be promoted onto a calendar, can be populated there. So again, really integrating with some of our other items that we offer. And then in the back end, have a really intuitive and user-friendly approach to managing all of this. We'll be able to see and manage all of our buildings and spaces. We'll be able to create profiles for different service providers so that we can automate all of those task assignments. We'll also be able to input all of our resources that are available, like tables, chairs, cameras, microphones. And we'll also be keeping track of all of the inventories for those items so that you won't accidentally, give someone some tables and realize on the day of that you're not able to service it. We're putting a lot of stopgaps in place to avoid any complications that could arise like that, or double bookings, or any of those other type of common pain points that may arise. And then in the actual review process, really just have an intuitive and simple design. Made a little test for the ACCED-I conference, and once we hop into this, an admin will be able to review an event. We have a variety of different user permission settings that can be applied and created. So we can also get specific if there's different building managers for different spaces. We can have a really robust delineation of who is responsible and who is overseeing certain things. But whoever does oversee this request will come, review, do some rejections or approvals, but they can take it a step further. We really wanted to create a seamless workflow that we've heard is hard to accomplish today in the room reservation process, whereby we've heard that whether it's the requester or the admin, there's typically multiple forms that have to be submitted. Whether that is submitting a form to the campus security team to get their approval or participation in an event. Maybe they need to open or close a building by a certain time. Maybe we need IT to make sure that the projector is working in the building. Whatever the case might be, we'll be able to assign out all of these tasks and have an automated workflow behind that, where the person who oversees campus security will be notified of what they're supposed to do. They'll receive weekly reminders of all of their tasks. We also have really robust reports that can be generated for different service providers, where they can see all of the tasks that they have, within a given time period, what locations they need to service, and all of that good stuff. And likewise for any resources like tables, like chairs, whatever the case might be, we'll also be able to assign those out here. We can tell them to set up according to specific diagrams that we have loaded up. And like I said, we'll be keeping track of all of the inventory, so you can feel confident that you'll never over-assign any resources and have those awkward complications day of event where you have to kind of tell someone that you can't quite service the event to what you agreed on. And for some of the folks here in the conference and events side of things, as we might be renting out these spaces and charging for them, we have automated that process as well so that we can generate quickly and easily really nice invoices that will tabulate costs based on what we're providing for the event, based on the specific space, maybe the time that we're going to be in that space. And for folks that use Stripe as a payment processor on campus, we'll also be able to help process those payments. I've heard quite a lot that some of the payment intakes can present complications because maybe there's misunderstanding over how to kind of pay, or maybe you can only accept payments via mail-in check at the time and don't have a credit card processor. So we really try to step into that route, fill that gap so that we can make it easier for you to send out these invoices, but also make it easier for you to accept payments. The last thing I'll touch on, because I think it's important, is that we offer a holistic view of everything that's happening across campus so that you can understand where things are taking place. If you have multiple large events that are trying to take place on the same day, you can manage those competing interests and perhaps plan accordingly. Can share this with campus security so that they're aware if they need to respond to any emergencies, what's taking place and where it's taking place. There's a lot of different use cases that I've heard from schools about being able to capture and see everything that's happening. And you can also book directly on here if you see, all right, I see that this little slot's available in CSE 100. I'm just going to go ahead and put my event on there. There's a lot of other areas that we can dig in today. I know that I kind of went through quite a bit of details and information. I hope this was able to give you all a nice synopsis of our, of our software, of our tools, and the angle that we're approaching this all with. We will be having some time for question and answer once I make it through a few more slides here. But as I've gone through that, I'm sure there might be some thoughts or questions on some folks' minds. So if you do have any thoughts, ideas, questions, you were hoping to see something that you didn't see, it's quite possible that we just didn't have the time to show it today. So drop all of that in the chat and would love to kind of dig deeper once we make it to the Q&A portion. And likewise, if we all want to dig deeper at a later date and time, more than happy to do so. But bringing us back into the presentation, I hope I was able to give everybody a good understanding of what we are doing and our approach to room reservations. So as we wrap that up, I just want to kind of recap on some of the primary scenarios that we hear about and our specific approach to those. So took a sip of water and now I'm ready to tackle the rest of the half of this. What can we do about it? Well, going off of what I just showed in the demo deck a second ago, at a large scale, we have stepped into this space because for years we've heard that the reservation process is cumbersome and complicated, and it doesn't need to be this way. Over the past couple of years, we've done extensive market research with our current clients to understand how we can step in and make this process easier. So just kind of recapping on what we're looking at here, we hear often that the process might be someone has to find a room, or maybe they don't even have access to finding a room. They'll email an admin, on your team and let you know kind of what information or what type of event they're hosting. They'll have to wait for that admin to kind of get back, give them some information. They're usually going to have to fill out some type of form about the event, wait for an approval. Oftentimes, they'll also have to, once they get the approval for the event, submit additional forms to folks like custodial teams or catering groups or other stakeholders that provide different services for the event. They'll have to wait for their approval. They'll have to start over if that isn't available. And there's just a whole lot of back and forth that's involved. A lot of manual workload, a lot of waiting for approvals, and a lot of areas of opportunity where things can simply fall through the cracks. same day of the event, folks having to email service providers, don't have a good mobile interface for their software. So typically having to manage all of this from their desktop, even if they're running around campus trying to set things up. And ultimately, they're going to have to host the event after all of this back and forth. And so where we've stepped in is trying to automate a good portion of this process, where what we envision is from what I shared earlier, that there will be one step for an event requester. They will relay everything that they need for that event. The admin will review and automatically assign out those tasks to the different service providers. We'll be able to allow those service providers to let us know if they can approve or reject their participation in that event. And we'll be able to keep all of this in one clean workflow so that the requester can stay up to date every step of the way, automate the billing and invoicing when needed, and ideally capture that payment in a more timely manner. But again, you can kind of see we built, we're building in these automations so that we can have, maybe instead of an 8-step process, a 4-step process. And this is kind of a bit of a summary of what we've heard, but ultimately trying to make things more seamless all around. Some of the scenarios that we've heard are hosts, whether those are event hosts as well as the admin getting frustrated, folks again emailing to learn more about the rooms are available, and the admin responding and then filling out a request, and then the admin going back to handle the service providers, and then the requester having to fill out additional forms. There's a lot of manual processes involved. And what we want is to create a one-stop shop for all of the logistical planning. Another thing that we hear a lot is that there's often no single source of truth, or that the single source of truth is often folks like the people on this call, folks like yourself who are maybe managing this in a one person team, or maybe you've got a couple colleagues that you work with, but you guys are the ones who are kind of operating as the source of truth. But there's no kind of technical place to go back to. We don't have a good global view of everything that's happening across campus. We don't have a good understanding of robust reporting that can be shared with different stakeholders and service providers. We don't have, all of these things that can kind of keep things consistent. A lot of that's falling on your plates to maybe manually create summaries or reports for facilities, and maybe it involves, I've heard multiple schools that are literally writing sticky notes and posting them onto the bulletin boards for their facilities teams to keep them up to date on things. And obviously, I think we can all agree that this just puts a lot of risk in the process, creates a lot of opportunities for things to fall, through the cracks. And whether that means that we're, double booking 2 big fundraising events that are now competing with each other, which is something I've heard, or whether the service providers that need to set up tables and chairs for an event are unaware for whatever reason that they're supposed to do that, things fall through the cracks. And that's what we are stepping in to fill the void on. We know that everybody in this group, in this conference, we're all experts in the game, and we do our best, but we also know that if we have to take a week off, that things can really go down the gutters quite quickly if things aren't, if there's no kind of source of truth to reference back on. So really trying to fill that gap here. And then ultimately, another scenario that we've talked about throughout this call is the manual work that's involved, the back and forth, the working between 6 different systems and filling out 6 different forms, the manual creation of invoice that can lead to delayed payments and lost revenue. Whatever the case might be, there's so many manual steps of work throughout the process. And there's so many areas that we built out automation there so that we can save you guys time, that you can focus on the things that matter, which are servicing the events, making sure that everybody is satisfied and happy with how their events take place, and ideally and hopefully trying to increase the amount of events that you're hosting, increase the revenue that you're getting from the events, going back to some of the earlier slides. When we waste time on the manual work, we don't get to spend time on the things that matter. And that's a big gap that we're working to fill here at Concept3D. So I hope that this presentation was enlightening. Just a quick little recap summary. We hear a lot of wasted money, staff time, and we're building automation behind all of that. We've heard that there's instances of lost or delayed revenue. Sometimes, billing is really difficult to track. People don't submit their payments in the right time, and their event gets canceled, and they're not aware of it, or whatever the case might be. We're trying to fill that gap by building in, automated invoices, tracking all of that, and collecting payments for schools that use Stripe. Scheduling conflicts, double bookings, resources getting overassigned, and we don't have enough tables to set up for all of the events that are happening across campus. We're making all of that easier to keep track of so that those situations don't happen. Clunky tools that are complex, that the user interface is just out of date, really challenging to use, and really technical. We built a low-tech, low-IT solution that can still deliver the enterprise functionality that we know you need, but without the heavy maintenance, without the need for there to be a really technical person involved, making all of this as simple as possible so that an everyday user can easily get behind all of this, so that when you have a new team member join your team, that you don't have to spend all this time getting them up to speed, that it's something intuitive and easy for them to use today, and that we can scale to all of your needs in the future. And so that's what we're really excited about today. We've been working with a lot of schools this past year to launch these room reservation tools, and have really just been hearing that it's been a breath of fresh air in a space that has long been overlooked. It has long been underdeveloped, and has long presented a lot of pain points for teams like yourself that we're really excited and eager to address. So I've talked a lot during this presentation. I know that we'll have much more attendees who are going to be reviewing this call after, but I know that we also have a few folks who are live with us today, and I'd really love to use the few minutes that we have left together to answer and respond to any thoughts or questions that you all might have. And I see one person who's come off of, who's turned on their video. So Mackenzie, is there anything that you had on your mind in terms of a question or whatnot for us? I think you'll have to turn your audio on.
Man, that always happens.
I know it does.
One of the pain points that we experienced in my facility happens to center around too much time, as you mentioned earlier, too much time and too many steps to get to the end product. Our events are so complex, and there are so many different elements that are required depending on the type of event that we have here. At my college, we have different tiers of events. And we start from tier 0 to tier 3. Tier 0 is something that you can book within 48 hours with minimal planning, booking a room as is or something like that. And tier 3 is something that we require, at least 30 business days to book. And and I have a team underneath me, and depending on who gets the call or who picks up the phone, the complexity can be a little problematic. So I would certainly be definitely invested in trying to figure out how to streamline, our business processes to make it easier for my staff, easier for the incoming staff that we have joining us next month, because I think once if the process is simple, we can get more out of our staff, and it opens up their ability to do more and to learn more, to actually not feel like they are drowning on a daily basis. So I really agree, and I really appreciate you bringing that pain point up as number one, because that's definitely our number one.
No, Mackenzie, it's so nice to hear that feedback because, like I said, we've really invested a lot of time over the past couple of years in trying to listen to the market and respond, and so it's always rewarding to hear that we're on the right track. So thank
Yeah,
you for that feedback, and
yeah,
I'm not sure if it was a question, but just calling out a couple of things that you mentioned, like
yeah,
we understand that different spaces across campus service different groups and have different requirements behind them. So we're making it easy to give access to certain, folks to certain spaces, but also making it easy to set up each space so that, to your point, if some of these spaces can be booked on demand, maybe it's a study room or something
yeah,
that students can use, we can have those spaces be booked on demand, and other spaces that require a 7 or 31 day lead time in order to to have that request even be considered. Likewise, we can have the admin set up with their roles and permissions to oversee specific types of events or to oversee specific buildings, and so we can simplify that workflow by making sure everybody's in tune with what they're involved with what they need to do, and not getting confused with all of the other noise that's happening, to your point, right? Because there's so many people involved.
yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, and hopefully maybe some of what I just said was able to fill in some more gaps you might have had in your mind.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey Christian, I was curious about what's the typical onboarding time that we're seeing, and then also while people are onboarding, what type of support is available?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. And I realized that I didn't have much more to show in the slide deck, so I'll kind of take my presentation mode off. We offer a really robust level of client support all around as a company. Again, a lot of folks on the call may or may not be clients of ours. And so if you are clients or have been clients at another school, you probably have experience with our client support. We have a really robust onboarding process where we have a dedicated person who handles all of our training and onboarding and works strategically with groups based on experience that we have with other schools to lay things out in the best way possible and to really get everything set up to meet your needs. We typically actually see a pretty quick onboarding and turnaround time for these room reservation systems, where we've been able to get most of our folks live within a couple of months. And we understand that that's a pretty, a pretty difficult task oftentimes to replace, large scale systems that have been a part of your, university for maybe 10 plus years. And so we know it's a big lift, and we have a lot of support there, and really want to make it as seamless and as easy of a process as possible. And then beyond that, after you launch, you'll have a dedicated and named client support representative. We have quick turnaround times for any requests and whatnot that are made. We also have a fully separate technical support team that's available and responds in an even quicker fashion to any bugs or items like that may arise. We have weekly office hours too that are really kind of geared towards strategy, thinking about new ways of doing things, or maybe retraining or new training for some of the new hires that are joining the team.
Cool. And then I guess I do have one last question since we're running up on time. So sometimes whenever we're hosting sort of like larger events, vendors will need to supply some sort of like certificate of insurance. Where would that go in the process?
Oh yeah, no, that's a great question. So yeah, especially for external groups, I think a lot of times when folks are renting out spaces and they're not affiliated with campus, it's all the more important that we have that insurance documentation, and we'll be able to collect that during the process as well. We can have them request it when they're submitting that initial form, or if it's not like a standard thing, maybe maybe we'll know whether or not they need that COI. After they submit it, we can always have have that be pushed back out and request it. So we know that that's an important part of the process, and we'll make sure that we can get that information in record and on file. Amy, I saw that you popped in with your video again. I know that you're trying to keep us on track and on time. Did you want to hop back in, or maybe you had a question yourself?
No, I was just going to let you guys finish up and had a few comments, but whenever you're ready.
Excellent. Well, if I know that we've only got a couple of minutes, so it looks like we've got a few more attendees on the call. If either of you want to pop in with a quick question, would love to hear it. If not, then Oh, Nathan.
Hey, yeah, sorry I joined a little bit late, but big fan. A lot of my campuses have map Concept3D. It's leaps and bounds better than any other map system. There's some really rudimentary ones out there. You might have already covered this, although I know it might be redundant in the filter setting. Mm-hmm. Do you have any examples of other college campuses that have had a dedicated line item that says, these are the spaces that we, the conference department on campus, are selling, are for sale, are for rent, to external customers? And have you had any experience helping departments like ours on college campuses basically market to event planners and say, hey, stop in here, check out our awesome map, and we can very cleanly and precisely show you exactly what buildings and rooms are for sale across our campuses?
Yeah, Nathan, I'm glad that you asked that question. I'll try to do as much as I can with a few seconds left. But yes, so we can set this system up to where maybe those external groups are having specific access to only spaces that the C&E team hosts. We also have landing pages for each of our spaces. So a lot of the schools in the C&E side of things are wanting to just list out all of those spaces and link out so that folks can easily dig in, see more pictures and images. And to your point, Nathan, I love that you have experience with our maps, because that's another beautiful part of the integration, because we also see our map coming into the fold as being leveraged as a tool. We have a lot of folks who use the map to promote campus at large. And we also have the ability for folks to display all of those venues and spaces for external groups to rent on the map. And as you may or may not know, you can show beautiful images, videos, 360 contents of those spaces. So I see the 45-minute mark, but I hope that gave you a little taste. And anybody who wants to know more about that, I'm happy to dig into at a later date.
All right. Well, thank you, Christian and Michael, for that presentation. There's a lot of great information, and I know the people are really going to enjoy it when they have the opportunity to stop by and see it when we have our new website up and running. Thanks to everybody who joined us today for Concept3D. We look forward to seeing you in just a bit at 1 p.m. Mountain Time for Star Res. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for the engagement. Have a great day, y'all.